Welcome to the Managing the Smart Mind podcast with your host, Coach Kramer. This is episode 91, The Myths of Attraction with Laerke Nielsen. Okay, podcast listeners, guess what the most requested podcast topic is? It is relationships. How to get and maintain a great relationship when you have a smart mind. So I am incredibly happy to start off a new series on smart relationship strategies with dating coach Laerke Nielsen, who is going to debunk all those myths of attraction that many of us are holding. All the movies we've seen, all the things we tend to believe, and these are actually holding us back from finding a fulfilling relationship. Now, Laerke is a pharmacist by education. She also has a degree in communication and rhetoric, which, by the way, is very fun. Second person on the podcast who has a degree in rhetoric. Go figure. And like many smart humans, she has worked in lots of different fields and roles, including as an environmental toxicologist, a journalist, a communication consultant, a teacher, medical affairs manager, marketing specialist, a breakup coach, and now a dating coach. She is a certified life coach and is Danish, but she has resided in Paris since 2019. The city of love, right? Perfect. Now, we talk all things dating in this episode, but even if you're not looking for a romantic relationship right now, I invite you to listen in regardless, because so much of what we discuss, for example, value alignment, applies to all relationships you're trying to build, whether personal, business. So I think there's something useful here for everyone. So tune in to learn more about the myths of attraction and learn some cool tools that you can use in your relationship journey, such as slow dating, how to recognize and break your old patterns, and much, much more. And of course, you're going to hear Laerke's answer to the often asked question, where have all the good men gone? Enjoy. All right, smart humans, I am so excited to introduce to you Laerke Nielsen, who is an expert in dating and relationships. And she's going to share all her incredible knowledge with us today as we take you through the myths of attraction. Welcome, Laerke.
Thank you so much for having me, Elsa. I'm excited to be here.
And I said, we were talking just before we started recording. I said, this is super fun as well, because this is one of the first times I have someone who is culturally very close to me, as in Laerke is from Denmark originally, currently living in
Paris.
In
yeah,
the beautiful
France.
Beautiful romantic city
Yeah.
of Paris. But the Dutch and the Danish apparently are culturally closest to each other in the world, which is interesting because, listen, I cannot understand Laerke when she speaks. I don't know if you can understand me when I speak Dutch. Maybe. Let's all try it.
But I can read it. I can read part of it, but it's difficult to understand the spoken language.
So we'll see how this goes, this cultural sort of connection match thing. It's also kind of could be attractive. Actually, we could start there after you tell me your biggest frustration, because that needs to happen first.
Yeah, so I do have several frustrations, and since we are talking about attraction today, I think my biggest frustration would be that people are too fast in deciding whether they feel any attraction or not. They don't let it grow. So
why does this frustrate you?
Yeah, because it's actually it's too bad that there are possibilities we miss out on because we're too fast in saying, if I don't feel this attraction, this chemistry sparks on the very first date or the first 2 dates, then I'm not interested. And then we miss out on a potential partner that could be actually really good and that we could develop the attraction to down the line.
I love it. And listen, this episode, so many people have been waiting for this because I always ask people, what would you love for me to do a podcast episode on? And the most requested topic is having a smart mind and relationships, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's insane. Like everyone's like, how can I have relationship? And actually maybe you can talk a little bit to that before we start delving deeper into attraction. That eternal question that I get, especially from women, do I need to go for a partner who is of similar intelligence? Is that important?
So I think that we will naturally attract someone that are about the same level, but to have exactly the same IQ, I wouldn't recommend that you go and do a test on a future potential partner. But I think it's normal that we talk well with someone who's within, I don't know if it's like a 5 IQ points or something like that. And if there's too big of a gap, it just won't work out. So it will be natural that we attract someone who's about the same level. But we want to be aware of what it is we want to do with a partner and what are some things we can do with other people, because we don't want to put all our activities into the same person or expect one person to fulfill all our needs. That would be a big mistake.
Yeah, it would be impossible, right?
Impossible.
And
also, yeah. Such a big pressure to put on one person.
exactly. It would be insane. Okay, so we're diving to the myth of attraction, and one of the biggest myths is, I think, and that is so amplified by media, by the movies, right? There is this one person, like, and cue the music, romantic music, this one person, and once you find them, you will know it in your heart, and they will complete you, and everything will be perfect, from there on out, etc., etc. And this is what people are chasing, right?
Yeah. And I love that it's a myth and it's not true, because otherwise we would be in trouble if we don't find this one person. Of course, it's not just one person. And also the other thing we talked about is this idea that you can just feel it, that it was just there from the beginning. It was a chemistry, it was sparks. And if it's not there, then it's just too bad. We have to move on to the next. And that is where I'm actually a little bit the opposite. The more I learn about this, is I realize that I wouldn't trust that early attraction, because when you think about it, what is it really based on when you feel very attracted to someone before you even know them, before you even know what person this is? Then of course it has to be unconscious factors that are playing, that are creating this attraction. It's not your knowledge of this other person. So you don't even know yet if it's smart to be attracted to this person. You just know there's something going on.
Pheromones or whatever it is.
Yeah, and
Yep.
usually it's actually for many people, it can be some patterns that are repeating, where you kind of try to, or you seek repeating the same situations that hasn't been solved from the past. So a classical one is like a woman who had a father that was distant, that wasn't giving her a lot of attention. Naturally, we feel that there's some familiarity in men that are not giving that attention and time.
Unavailability.
Yeah, so not emotionally available, and then we kind of get hooked in trying to crack that code, or trying to overcome that. It's like a challenge we want to overcome in order to
listen. Smart people like challenges,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and it's like on a very unconscious level, because it's almost like if we succeed in that, we'll be healed from the past. Like we finally have proven to ourselves that we're worthy of love. And so, and of course, there's also this whole question of scarcity. Once something is scarce, there's something that's difficult to get. We value it more. We think it's worth more. So this is like a very classical situation because I work mostly with women, but I guess it can be the same with men. That if you meet someone and you feel an attraction, and this person is not fully available, they're not reciprocating, you more easily get hooked if you have these kind of patterns from the past. So, and becoming aware of that and seeing that this is really what's going on, and then you get a chance to decide, do I really want to feel attracted to that? Do I want to react to that attraction? You might still feel an attraction, but you can decide if you want to react to that.
I love that you're saying you might still want to feel the attraction, because, full disclosure, I have been happily together with my husband for 29 years. I still feel attraction sometimes, right? Like I'm a human being.
Yeah, but you should. I mean, it's
Exactly,
attraction is
right?
good.
That is
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need to shut down all your feelings, your desire, all the
No.
things, but sort of the next step, the acting on them, right? That you may
Yeah.
want to reconsider.
Yes. And this is almost the same as when you consider having, if you imagine having an urge towards eating a sugar or drinking alcohol, we can have this urge, we want to do it, but then we can still decide not to react on it and choose the chicken salad instead.
Although I
So
have to say, it's much more fun to like feel the desire for a person
yeah,
and not
yeah.
act on it than feel the desire for chocolate and not act on it.
Yeah.
100%. But what would you let's say I'm going to ask everyone who's listening, who doesn't have a partner and has sort of things, oh, this may be me, right? Just check in with yourself. Are you repeating this pattern? Is this something you're trying? Is this something maybe from the past that you're trying to resolve, right, through a relationship? So whilst you're checking in with yourself, like if you notice this is you, I'm guessing the first step is not to find a relationship, maybe even.
If you see your own patterns, if you see
Yeah.
something is repeating, that is already a very, very good thing, because then you have awareness, and so you can get curious about what is it that is repeating, what are the things that attract me in another person, and pay attention to whenever that shows up, and be a little bit alert that maybe this is not actually something you want to react to. But it's not like early attraction doesn't have to be bad, but we just don't want it to take control of us. We don't want, we assign way too much value to it and way too much meaning. So
And
what we want to
power,
do is,
right?
and we want to get to know the person and we don't want the attraction to develop faster than our knowledge of the person. And
Okay,
so
stop. I have to pause you there because that is massively important.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't know. Yeah, this is because to you, this is probably completely normal. I think a lot of people are like, what did she just say? You don't want your attraction to develop faster than your knowledge of the person.
Yeah.
Okay, explain why.
Yeah. Because we want, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we want to make sure that it's a smart move to feel this attraction and to let ourselves react to it, because attraction is a beautiful feeling when it's for the right person who is actually treating us well and reciprocating. And we don't know that on the first 2 days. Like, we need to know the person a little bit better. So I recommend what I call slow dating. So as opposed to speed
that
dating,
sounds
I
good
recommend
and juicy. Tell me more. Slow dating.
that you give it some time, and you don't we meet someone you like, you don't have to see him or her every day for 2 weeks. You space it out, so you have maybe 1 date a week for like 2 or 3 months, and then if
That's
everything goes well,
long. That's
that's
long.
very long. Yeah, that's very
Wow.
long. But you can ask yourself, how fast can you really get to know another human being? I mean, you need to experience them in different situations, and there are the things that we can say and experience in a communication, and we can say explain about our life and share our thoughts and so on. But there are also things we need to experience with another person. We need to see how they react in a stressful situation, for instance, or if I say no to something, or if we disagree, how does the other person react to that? And this is not situations you can sort of create. Like, I don't recommend you test your potential future partner like that. It's something that
Like
has to
on one
needs a bit
date.
of time. Yeah.
Well, if you
So,
sort of, I don't know, go camping in the mud on your first date, maybe you will find out on one date. But that doesn't sound like a very solid plan, I have to say.
No.
Wow, more like a recipe for disaster. Okay, so slow dating. Wow.
Yes.
2 to
Slow
3 months.
dating, give it time. And like this, you will have sort of a feeling of, who is this other person? Is it safe to be attracted and to allow myself to go all in on these feelings or not?
And how would you define safe?
That is when you speak about someone that is corresponding to the kind of partner you're looking for and who is showing you the attention back, who is reciprocating, and who is respecting your boundaries, who can act in a mature way when you don't agree on everything, who is listening to what you want. Basically, those are like really basic things, but
yeah,
for some
I'm
people,
hearing this,
it's
and I'm
difficult to
because
find.
I'm like I have only my one experience with a
Yeah,
partner.
yeah.
I'm thinking, but isn't this like shouldn't it always be like this? But I'm guessing
Yeah.
it isn't.
It isn't always, no. It could be someone who is all in for the first 2 weeks, and then they sort of drop out, or they stop
Get bored.
reaching out so much, and yeah, so they want something else, and they're still keeping this one person on the side, and they might start negotiate if there's a boundary. The other person is setting a boundary, then there could be like a discussion around that instead of just accepting it. And so there can be many different situations, and you want to make sure that this is a person that you are compatible with.
And
Now,
compatible,
of course,
I'm guessing, is very personal. So we can maybe talk about that a little bit as well. But also, what are like general red flags, would you say?
general red flags. Now I work mostly with women, and so a classical red flag would be this kind of hot and cold behavior. So someone who is all in, and then he disappears for a while, and then he comes back again, and he's not really clear about commitment. And if at some point they have a discussion of where this is going, then he's going to say, let's just see what happens. I'm
Just
not
play
really
by
into putting
ear.
labels. Let's not put labels on this. And then so a little bit like flaky, so not really, or like someone who is very early inviting the other person home to their private home,
Right,
or
meet the parents.
yeah, no, just home, Saturday night, or calling them, very late, when they don't know each other that well, calling them 10 p.m. Saturday night, and now all of a sudden he's available, he wants to see you, and not for a real date, it's spontaneous. So those could be red flags. And so basically all the things I said about the green flags, where continuously showing attention, consistency over a long time is really important to see.
Yeah.
If
And I
it's a
think, by the
long-term
way, this
partner.
also applies to business relationships.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
for those of you listening who, like me, aren't looking for a partner, I think this is actually solid advice also for anybody you collaborate with, for example, because you're looking, I guess, for an alignment, like a very deep alignment on values.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what would you say from your experience in your practice are like the biggest mistakes, in your case, women, but I'm guessing also men, right? Humans, smart humans, because you work with very, high achieving women. What are the mistakes they tend to make when it comes to attraction?
When it comes to, like, in general, when it comes to attraction, is that we just give way too much meaning to this idea that we should feel attracted very early on, and it should be something that we just know, this just feels right, instead of giving them a little bit more time. And sometimes I say to these women, allow yourself to date the, so to speak, boring guy. See what happens down the line. Maybe he turns out to be actually quite interesting, instead of going for the ones that are like, it's a firework, it sparks,
Shiny
it's chemistry, and
objects.
so on.
Yeah.
So that is like in the beginning, some of the mistakes. And then later on, we can see with high achieving women, it's very classical that we compensate for, if a man is not taking initiative, then we very easily compensate for that by doing a lot of things ourselves, being very proactive, organizing dates, and taking leadership of the relationship. And so that what happens then is that we discover way later that the man is actually he's not that into us. We discover that later because we've been compensating, we've been over functioning for a long time, and we can take care of a lot of things, and we are low maintenance. We don't need a lot of attention from a man, and
because you have an amazing, fulfilling life, right? Probably a nice group of friends. You like your work, etc., and then you organize the dates, and then. But so when do women start realizing, like, maybe he's not that committed or not that into me?
So that could be 2 or 3 months down the line, when he has some kind of excuse that I need to figure out my life, or I have to build something in my home. So I'm not really sure I'm looking for a serious relationship, or worst case, they actually get ghosted by a man. I see that a lot as well.
Oh, that okay. Can we talk about that ghosting? I think that is like so insanely mean. That's such a
Yeah,
horrific thing to
yeah,
do to
yeah.
someone.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah.
It is the most avoidant kind of behavior. Simply just not even wanting to just send a message or just communicate.
Right. And just say, sorry, I'm just no longer into you. Or just
Yeah,
saying, hey, it was fun while it lasted. I'm moving on to other things. Even if you're rude about it, like that sucks, sure. But
yeah,
come on,
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Why do you think people ghost?
I think it's a huge fear of this confrontation.
Mm,
And I think, to be honest, I think it's never okay. There's never a situation
right?
where it's okay unless you are ghosting someone who's abusive. Like
Sure.
but
Who's
that's a
going to
different
physically
situation,
or
right?
mentally, yeah, hurt
Yeah,
you? Yes.
but otherwise, no, it's not okay, and the other person is left with both feeling rejected because there's not coming any response back, but also a long period of uncertainty because we don't really know,
There's no closure.
what's going on. Is he did he lose his phone? Is he in the hospital? Did something
Yeah.
happen to someone in his family? Or so it takes a while before the person finds out that he or she has been ghosted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it feels like the biggest lack of respect, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And I have to say, like, if you've been two other people who've been ghosted, to me, that is just a sign of such emotional immaturity
yeah, it
that you
is.
can be very happy you got away,
Yeah,
basically. I
yeah,
mean, even though the experience is incredibly, nerve-wracking and the not knowing and the not having closure.
yeah,
And
yeah,
to the people listening who have ghosted people, send them a message. It's not too late. You can still make amends.
yeah, yeah. That's actually a good advice. Why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
why
Yeah,
not? Okay. So basically, because we were talking about, like, what are the biggest mistakes
yeah,
these women make
yeah,
in dating, it is basically thinking, okay, I can quote unquote manage this.
mm,
I am used to taking charge of everything. I'll take charge of the relationship
mm.
and I'll make it work
Yeah.
when there's not much to work with.
Yeah, so you're kind of dragging the man along sometimes, and then you all of a sudden discover that he wasn't actually that he wasn't either, he wasn't interested enough, or he wasn't even capable of showing up for a mature committed relationship. And therefore this kind of energy that we use, it's very powerful to have this in career and in business, and to
Yeah.
be proactive and take lead and all that. But I always advise them to shift their energy when it comes to dating and romance, and try to lean back a little bit and stop the overfunction and see what happens when you do nothing. Does he come back? Does he show up? Does he keep contacting? Or where is he? And it's not like you can never organize a date. It's just sometimes you want to just take a step back and see,
Yeah.
is he still there?
Is
Or
this reciprocal, basically?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I have to say, I think some people who are in a relationship, some women might also want to try this.
With their husband or
Well,
their
with even
partner.
if they're even not necessarily their husband and
Mm-mm.
or wives or whoever, they're sharing their life with. But I think sometimes in relationships you have this dynamic where one person is doing all the heavy lifting
Yeah.
and then also tends to become very resentful. I may have been that person in the past. That's why I know this. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to do all the things? Well, that's because I don't sort of even create that space by leaning back
Yeah. Yeah.
for the other person, right?
True. Yeah, that is so interesting, because I also had this in some of my past relationships. Like we are in the same boat, but it's always me who's rowing. And when I realized they actually didn't ask me to do that, I just did that because I
Exactly.
wasn't
Right?
patient enough. I wanted things to go to
Yeah.
move on, and of course, it's very good also to just sometimes create a little bit of space, because
Ah,
when we lean back and we allow for this space and room, and also a little bit of distance, then that's where the passion can build up again, and
100%.
let him come back again towards us.
And this is also probably a good place to start talking a bit about perfectionism.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I think also the reason, well, if even if you do kind of lean back and allow things to happen, then if you have like these massive demands on your partner
yeah,
and they do a thing and you're like, no, but this is not how it should be.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That is not a great dynamic either.
No.
Right. So if
That is
you allow the other person in a relationship, let's say you let go of the reins and you're like, okay, let's see what the other person does.
yeah.
What kind of mindset would you say do you want to approach this with?
But this is really about being curious and allowing the other person to be who they are. And letting go. And this, of course, is so easy to say, and it's more difficult, especially if you already are in a relationship where you have your habits and you have your way of thinking. This is supposed to be like this. He should know by now, and so on. Where you just try to, one of the exercises you can do is sit down. If you have a specific situation, sit down and write out. I do this also with my clients before they go on a date, and write out, what do you want? How do you want this to be, this date to be? What do you expect him to say and do? And then just rip a piece into pieces, rip the paper into pieces, throw it away.
Love it.
And be open to everything can happen. It's not only your way of thinking that's the right way. And instead, try to be curious to see, what does he have to offer? What does the other person has to offer to the table? And what are their ways of thinking?
This is good for everything, right? Not just dating, any meeting you're going to have, anything, any new person you're meeting. Yeah. This is brilliant. Or even maybe going to a family reunion.
That is a challenge.
I love this. This is so good. Just meet people with a curious, open mind instead of these massive, or your projections, your desires, and then basically all you're doing, instead of seeing the person, really meeting them, you're having this mental checklist, like, oh, yes, no, no, no,
yes. Yes. And that's where, so of course, at some point when you meet a new person, at some point you need to evaluate if you have approximately the same values. That's important, and you are aligned on that. But all this long list of things they have to do, and things they have to achieve, and ideas they have to agree with, put it aside for a while and just focus on getting to know someone. And this, again, we talked about the early attraction, and there's this whole idea about love at first sight. And I have, we can discuss this for a long time. What does it even mean? Can you even love someone at first sight? Of course.
Can you tell me?
You have to get to know them. It's not love when you feel this more attraction that you feel for someone.
How do you define attraction? What is attraction?
Or it's a mix of many different factors. And I would say we can talk about physical attraction and emotional attraction. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's different variations, but for me, it's just easy to look at these two different ones, where the physical attraction is like an immediate one that you either feel or not. Yeah. But if you get to know someone, I think we all have experienced this. We get to know someone, we find out this is a very cool person that has a great sense of humor. And I like being with this person. I enjoy the time I have. Then we start to get physically attracted.
Exactly. And they're pretty damn sexy too.
Yeah. And that is sort of this slow burn attraction that is much more healthy, because here you actually know what you're attracted to. But attraction can, there are so many different factors, and some of it is a similarity, familiarity, proximity. Also, that is a reciprocated, can feel very attractive, but it's not necessarily that sometimes we see people being attracted to another person who's not reciprocating at all. And so instead of having this idea of love at first sight, attraction at first sight, I always say try to focus on, can you generate curiosity at first sight? Can you feel curious about this other person, and try to open up and discover this person and really listen to what is it that they're saying, and get curious about what's driving them, what are their emotions and motivation behind everything they are telling you, in order to facilitate that they open up and show you the most of who they are, the best of who they are. And that, of course, also requires a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. So you don't see that in the first date. For most people, they need to warm up, they need to feel safe, they need to get to know the other person before they really show who they are.
I think, and we may even have talked about this in our pre-chat, that my first date with my husband, or second date, was so successful because I dropped very sticky liqueur all over him and me and the table. Like, it was a complete mess, and I was so clumsy. And I think that is kind of like, I could have put up any facade.
No,
right?
No.
And he still liked me.
That's kind of an icebreaker. Yeah.
It's a good test.
Yeah.
By the way, people, this does not mean that you need to go dropping your sticky drinks over your dates.
No, that's a risk to take, I would say.
But this is a good example of like, something happens that is far from perfect, right? And it was horrible. It was really, really sticky. It was drambuie. And we were sitting on a velvet couch in a cafe, and it was all over him, all over me, all over the velvet couch. Like we had people from the cafe were like trying to clean it. It was like a situation.
Yeah.
And that is where you can also notice, oh, is this person I'm with, does he feel does he feel shame? Does he feel embarrassed by me? Or is he totally confident? Like, oh, this is not a problem, right? This is just liquid on a sofa.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's like, or is he like, I can't believe I'm with this clumsy woman.
Yeah. Let me get out of here.
Yes. Right. Very different experience.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing he didn't think, wow, this is so attractive. I mean,
no, but he could maybe have thought it was very charming. Like,
that could be.
This where we show our little sort of imperfections that can actually be very charming. And so it's so wrong to think that we're supposed to be perfect, because it's all the little cracks that sometimes is what shows the personality and shows how we are different and makes another person fall for us. It's not just the smooth, perfect surface. I mean, most people get almost a bit scared if they meet someone who's too perfect, right? You can't relax, you can't be yourself. Exactly. What happens when I show that I'm not perfect? What is this other person going to think?
I have this exercise for my clients. It's got nothing to do with relationships, but it shows how we hate perfection. It's where I ask them to basically create their perfect fantasy of themselves, right? The person they think they should be, how they should think, how they should look, how organized they should be, right? What their house should look like, how they should react to things. And then I ask them to like write it out, draw it, create it, and look at it. And I'll be like, do you even like this person? Would you want to hang out with them? And they're like, no, too perfect, right?
Yeah. We don't even want to have someone like that as a friend.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, no. We hate them.
And so coming back to the situation with the drink, then of course that your reaction would also be very determining for how he sees it, because that's, being comfortable with whatever happens and being able to laugh a little bit of ourselves, embrace whenever we are not perfect. That is so perfect or so important and so much better than being perfect, actually.
So I guess being curious when you're dating, slow dating, and also imperfect dating.
Yeah. Just being authentic. I focus on we have to be ourselves. So, and that is with what we can call perceived imperfections, but with the whole package. And we need to, of course, find ways to embrace that ourselves before we can put it out in the world, and we can expect someone else to like it as well. But
if you hate yourself for a certain thing, then it's going to be very hard to show it to someone else.
Definitely. But being authentic is really, really important in order to attract the right person. And here, one of the points is also to teach people that you actually wanna feel, or you wanna be rejected sometimes. You don't want to attract everyone.
Yes.
You don't want to make everyone happy. I mean, that's a problem if all of the guys want to continue dating. You want to show yourself as much as to attract some, and have someone else say, no, that's not my cup of tea. Right.
Totally. Yeah. You want to filter out the guys who, like, if they knew the real you, they would be like horrified.
Yeah. So not be so afraid of being rejected from time to time. Not be just because that is a sign that you've shown your authentic self to someone who was not aligned, instead of trying to adapt into what we think that they want. And again, we can. Yeah, so we can be very smart in the sense that we figure out what kind of woman does he like, what should I say and do in this situation, and be strategic. But that is not a good idea.
I love that you're saying this. I actually have a podcast episode on this called The Chameleon Complex. I think it shows up with a lot of smart people. We just figure out what people want. And we become that. We lose ourselves in the process.
Completely.
Yeah. And in dating, that is a recipe for disaster.
It is.
You want to spend like the rest of even a couple of years with someone.
Who expect you to be another than who you really are.
Yeah.
So it's also Brené Brown who's done a lot of work on this authenticity and vulnerability, and where she says, I don't remember the exact quote, but she says this feeling of belonging and really feeling deeply loved, it can only happen when you show your imperfect side and your vulnerable side, and this is being accepted and loved. And so you cannot you cannot be authentically yourself without also accepting a certain level of vulnerability.
Yeah. And imperfection.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, in your partner.
Yeah, true.
Which is like maybe a nice one to switch to, like the list, right?
Yeah.
Like the list of demands.
Yeah. Which is so interesting, because I rarely meet someone who has too high standards, but I often speak to clients who have what I would say the wrong standards, so they focus on the wrong things.
Right. This blew my mind when we met to discuss this episode. I thought you would be saying like women have their demands are way too high, right? Like in a Indian matchmaker, like they want all the things. And you said women, like the high achievers I work with, their standards are sometimes even too low in some aspects. So tell me more about that, because I thought that was super intriguing.
What we should focus on is the personality and the values of this other person that we're looking for, and of course what kind of goals they have. If someone wants to get married and have kids, you want to find someone who has the same dream, or you want to find someone who's looking for this kind of relationship where you only see each other on the weekends or whatever. You can do whatever you want today, right? There's no rules. So you want to just make sure that you're looking for someone who is aligned with your long-term life goals, who has the personality that you're looking for. And here I say choose maybe 5 traits.
Okay, give me an example of personality traits.
Like it could be someone who's adventurous and who's curious. For instance, or for some people, adventure is not that important. They want someone who's more like a home person who wants to
cozy.
Yeah, cozy, and of course everyone says honest, and I say this is a given.
This is like a basic.
Yeah. So someone who's of course they want also someone who's intelligent, and I think that is also one of the things that, as I said in the beginning, we naturally attract someone who's around the same level. It would be difficult.
I wonder if I would challenge that though, because I know smart women and smart men who also attract people who are not the same intelligence.
Yeah. But would you then go like more than like 2 or 3 dates and you will figure out?
Yeah, they get married.
Okay. Yeah,
it happens. It doesn't always last, right? So this is another question I get very often. Like, is it a viable relationship model? And for some people, it is. It is relatively rare, though. And I think this is when there is alignment on other values, right? So, for example, if ambition isn't a very high value for you, for example, maybe that can work if you're both, like, even if your level is different. Or on the other hand, if you're both super ambitious, your intelligence doesn't need to be the same, right? Like, you can still be super ambitious, achieve things. And if that is something that keeps you going in life, that could work too.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a question of what you do with your intelligence. Like if you do something you like. So and it's not like someone who has a super high intelligence and who's really bored in their job, because that is not inspiring. So so you can sometimes go like a step deeper and see what is behind that, because some people want a man who is accomplished and successful, and I need him to be in finance, for instance. And then I'm like, why on earth? Because what if he is actually very ambitious and accomplished, but not necessarily in a traditional career? It could be a person who loves traveling, and he has set a goal to travel the world, and he's done, he has accomplished different things based on he's been driven by that ambition. So sometimes it's also interesting to see, what is the reason why. So it's one thing is to define what is it I'm looking for, but then the next step is to ask why is that important to you?
Exactly.
To get really clear on maybe what is really important is the thing that is behind, is the layer below. That is the important thing.
So basically, when you're thinking, I want a partner who ... go a little bit further and say, so that ... or because ...
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I like ambition because I'm
Mm.
fiercely ambitious, but not in the sense like the status kind of ambition, but I just want to be the best at things, right? Like a streber, like
Yeah,
that kind of person. I love it. I love learning more, becoming better, honing my craft,
yeah,
right? And being really ambitious in that sense. And I love that in a partner. I don't think it's like a non-negotiable, but I think I'm very happy to have found a partner who is also
yeah,
like in a completely different field, right?
yeah.
Has that same thing. I want to learn all the things and become the best and innovate my field. That kind of attitude. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then what is driving is, of course, this desire to learn and a curiosity to learn more and absorb more and constantly develop,
Exactly.
constantly
To keep
challenge
growing
yourself.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so that's important to see. That's actually really what is below is that those personality traits or values that you really appreciate.
So good. Okay. So we know now, I'm just going to do a quick summary, right? Like slow dating,
Yeah.
be curious,
Yes.
check for values rather than like the checklist works for a bank.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah.
Because listen, high achieving women, we live in a new age. You no longer need the guy, to pay the bills. That's past us, which is
Mm,
fun,
mm,
which is nice.
mm.
What else when we think about dating? What are we missing?
What is important? Oh, a lot of things are important. In what respect do you mean? Like in
What are
before you?
the other things people are not doing right or are ignoring when it comes to dating?
I think that what I always start by doing with my clients is to take a look at their relationship with themselves,
Mm.
because that is really what one of the most determining things, if not the most determining things for what we attract. And see what we can see. Usually, after a certain age, we have a number of relationships, and can see there are some patterns that are repeating. It might be that we feel the partners were very different, but the way we felt and the situation, we had sort of the same situation again and again.
Mm.
So looking at and realizing that we have created that ourselves, even though it's painful to see, we actually have allowed this into our life. And why did we do this? And what are some
I
ways we
just want to
can?
say, like, and I know you don't mean this at all, but some people, just to be super clear, this does not mean abusive relationships,
No,
right?
no,
That
no,
we're not
no,
saying if you've
no,
been
no.
abused, that is your fault. Just for like 100% clarity.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you for
of course,
clarifying that. Yes,
of course.
yes, we are more in the situation where we feel, now again, I'm with a person who doesn't really love what makes me special and unique, and I have to sort of adapt, or I have to play small, or
Or a
uh,
partner who isn't sure they want kids, right? That's what I hear a lot as well. Like
yeah,
women, especially in their 30s, and
yeah,
they keep staying with a partner who isn't sure yet whether they want children. But of course, like biology, it sucks, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like, I don't know. Maybe at some stage you do want to get that clarity.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you do. Yes. And you actually want to get that clarity very early on. And this, one of the things I think you can never do too early is actually have the discussion about what is it that the other person is looking for. It's not necessarily like you're asking, hey, do you want a long-term relationship with me? But just what are you looking for? What are your
Okay, so you're
vision
saying
of
that's
your
a
love
good
life?
idea to ask on a first date. Like what kind
Yeah.
of relationships? Oh,
Yes.
that's interesting.
What do you
Okay.
see in your future love life? What is your vision? What are you looking for?
Hmm.
Of course, with the ideal partner, not necessarily this other person. I mean,
Sure.
because the earlier you ask, the more you can ask it without any attachment to that, because it's
Yeah.
obvious when you don't know each other. Of course, it can't be about me. It's just,
I love this. You're
yeah,
right. If you ask this in month 4, you're asking it like kind of trembling,
yeah,
right? And you're like,
yeah,
oh my God, I hope this doesn't mean this is the end. Whereas
yeah,
if you ask it on the first day, it's like, hey, so
mm,
relationships, right? What do you think?
yeah, yeah.
Basically.
And then if the one person says, "Well, I'm not really sure I'm ready for a serious commitment," you have to listen to that. You do not want
Okay.
to think I can change
People,
the other
yeah,
person's life or meaning, or
believe
I can,
people when they tell you who they
yeah,
are.
yeah. When
Right?
they say what they're looking for,
Yeah.
and they are not looking for something serious, that is really important to not sort of date the potential and think he can change his mind. I can make him show that he
Why
wants
do you
this.
think, especially women, I think not just women, but a lot of women do this. They think it becomes a kind of project.
Yeah, it does.
Right? It's a
Yeah.
he's not interested in a long-term relationship. I am, or she's not interested in a long-term relationship, but I am. Okay, maybe we can be amazing friends, but right? Next.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
instead does their brain go to, ooh, a project? I will make them love me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
They want to stay with me forever.
well, it's partly like wishful thinking, but also this whole thing about being drawn to a challenge and thinking that, of course, if I feel this, then he will realize that as well. Like, we will see down the line. He maybe will change his opinion about that.
I totally get this. As in, I am also someone who loves a challenge. And when
Yeah.
someone says something like to me, like, "Oh, you'll never do that," or "That's not possible for you,"
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Oh, I'll show you."
Yeah.
Watch
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
And
is good to
then
be aware of, that you have that kind of propensity to turn
yeah.
this into a challenge.
And then we need to understand, I mean, men and women think very differently sometimes. And even though he can say early on, I'm not interested in something serious, the woman might experience mixed signals. This is very normal. We perceive what he's sending towards us as mixed signals. So, but he shows up as if he is interested in something serious. But he said on the first date, and then we start to convince ourselves. But it's probably because it's
I
changing.
think, listen, men do this too. Trust me.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
No, but she does, but then she, right, like
yeah.
save. Okay, so why do you think that happens?
That they send mixed signals, or
No,
that
no, no. First of all, okay, let's define mixed signals, because some people may be listening wondering, what are mixed signals and how do I recognize them?
yeah. So it could be someone who's texting very is very hot and very intense, and then is hesitant in actually setting up a date. Like when the one person say, "Hey, should we meet soon?" and then it's like, "Yeah, sure," and then nothing happens, or so it's like, what do you really want? And then they go all in, and they want to do a lot of things together. But when we talk about long-term or future plans, they are getting unclear, and it's not really like, we don't really know where does this person stand.
So this is not really mixed signals, right? from like a higher level perspective, I wouldn't say it's a mixed signal. It's like, I really enjoy having fun with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
That's it.
I mean, it's when you have like the example with the texting, for instance,
Yeah,
that can be very easily perceived as mixed signal.
right.
Someone who's intensely writing back and forth, and then you're not getting a date, or it's not canceling last minute again and again, and things like that, where it's not really. And this is where I always advise, look at the actions of the person instead of looking at what they say, because it's easy to say, yeah, I want this and this, but it has to be followed up by action.
As we say in Holland, a man, a word, a word.
Yes.
It's a Dutch proverb,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Reliability. Yes.
Yeah.
That they do what they say they will do. And it's the same for women, right? You also want to be reliable as well.
Yeah. It's the same for whatever gender. Just be a fucking reliable human being.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is definitely a red flag. Like, if people are canceling dates. And by the way, I have experienced this with business partners who like consistently show up late to meetings or stuff like that. And there comes a point where you just have to set a boundary, and you're like, this is if you're not reliable, or you're not shipping your stuff, right? You're not doing your part of the project consistently, then it's just we can still be friends, but we're just not either gonna date more or work together.
Yeah.
Totally.
Reliability is super important, and it's even on the small things, such as saying, I'll call you tonight, and then nothing happens, because bit by bit, if this happens again and again, you just lose trust in the other person, and without trust, there's just no relationship. It's just the foundation of any kind of relationship, that you can trust the other person.
I love this 100%. I mean, again, one of the reasons I love my husband so much is he's so solid.
Yeah.
He's so solid. And also, I have to say, my best friends, right? I know in my bones, I can call them in the middle of the night if something's gone wrong, and they'll be there for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice.
Right?
In the middle of the night. Yeah.
It's if their phone's on.
Yeah.
But yes. So that kind of trust that kind of reliability. So okay, so we're doing this slow dating. All the signs are good. That they look reliable, right? They're keeping their promises, but we don't think they're that attractive, like physically. Now what?
Yeah. So if have you been dating for like 2 or 3 months and you're still not attracted, then I would say, okay, you cannot force it. And if you force yourself to try to feel attracted, you probably will feel a lot of resistance in yourself. You can facilitate.
Is it even possible to force yourself to be attracted?
I think that we
That's
can,
hard.
I mean, we can do a lot with our thoughts, but within certain limits, right? There are some people that it's easier to feel attracted to, and others where it's almost impossible. But you will be able to do a lot with your thinking, but I don't think we can force ourselves there. I think we can do. It's easier to generate affection, compassion, feelings like that compared to attraction. And if we
because
do
there's a huge physical component to attraction, right? Like to physical attraction, there's the pheromones, there's all the biological stuff happening, and I'm not sure you can control that when you're thinking.
I think that part of it we can, and I think that we can facilitate that it can develop. Like when we do this dating where we take the time and we are curious and we allow the other person to really open up and show them who they are, and practice in just giving it time and being present with the other person. We can do a lot to sort of optimize the chances of it developing. And then if it doesn't, I mean, if it doesn't come, if you feel absolutely nothing after 5 or 6 dates, I would already say there, you don't even feel like being physically close to the other person.
You don't want to touch the person, reach out, grab their arm, or
then it can be difficult to try to force yourself, and so you just want to let it go.
Okay. So that is kind of a sign that you may want to stop dating and maybe become friends.
Yes.
If you like them.
Yes. If you like. Yeah.
And if they want that, by the way, it's also up to them, of course.
Because it's not the big problem here with attraction is that it's not a given that when we feel attracted to someone, they also feel it.
Isn't this the worst thing in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there's so many, like I used to sing Schubert songs, and there's one Schubert song this is like the romantic period, right? Like this is centuries ago, and this song is about a man loving a woman who then of course loves another man, right? It's such an old story.
Yeah. Like unfortunately it's not reciprocated, and some people can feel like a very strong attraction, and it's of course it's painful that it's not reciprocated, but it's not a given.
So really hear this, people. Again, hear people when they tell you who they are, but also hear this. It isn't, even if it feels like, oh my God, you have like all these super intense feelings and it can be overwhelming, right? For a person, even if you feel all those things, it doesn't mean they are feeling the same thing too for you.
No.
And that doesn't say anything about you.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So, it's cruel, but it's reality.
Yeah. And it is really it is I mean, it would be so nice if we were only attracted to people who are attracted to us.
But
it's not a sign that we're meant to be, or something that we feel this.
It's not.
No.
But again, right? Like that's what our brain likes to tell us. Like, if I feel this strongly about this person, there's got to be something there.
Yeah. He must feel something as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do people get out of this? Because it can become almost like an addiction, right? Because it is nice. It is a nice feeling to feel so attracted to someone.
Yeah, it is until a certain level where it becomes painful, of course, because the other person is not responding to that. But now we talked a little bit about, can you force it? But I think that is difficult, but we can facilitate that it can develop. But on the other hand, something that we do want to work on and trying to take a little bit control of, that's when we feel attracted to someone that we don't want to be attracted to, because they are not giving us the attention. They're not interested.
Exactly.
To the
They're
level.
just not interested in us as a partner.
And that's where one step you can do is sit down and try to get really clear on, why am I attracted to this person? What is it they're doing and saying? What is it that makes me feel attracted? And what are the things that are also sort of see the whole picture, part of the package? The person is not showing interest for me. The person is not giving me the attention I want. And it's just not this other person is not showing up the way I would like to have a partner show up.
Yeah.
And then try to think of that as just plain unattractive. Like, try to reprogram our
that
brain.
Makes them kind of ugly.
Yeah, a person who's not giving you attention, not coming towards you, not taking initiative, not making up their mind whether they want or not want to be in a relationship. See that as something very unattractive, very uninspiring, very uninteresting, instead of as a project to overcome or a challenge to overcome. Try to reframe our thinking about this other person and see how that is actually this whole scarcity in attention, because that's what it is. It's scarcity. That is not a sign that is more valuable. It's not a sign that I should work harder to get it, or he is more interesting, or her. It is more a sign that this is just not interesting for me.
Yeah. And I think it can be very hard for people if they've experienced that kind of super intense physical first attraction, when they then start dating other people, to not think, oh, but I should be feeling the same level, right, of attraction. And if not, something's wrong.
Yeah. And this whole thing about the sparks and the early attraction, I would say be skeptical towards it. Don't let it be your guide for who is right for you or not. Of course, it can be, and it can happen that this person that you feel this instant chemistry with is also good in the long term. It's a good match in the long term, but it's not a given. So,
would you say Pride and Prejudice is a good example of like the slow burn, like with Darcy and Elizabeth? Hate at first sight.
No, I mean, we have we don't have, like, I think that what media is trying to show us is either this one situation where it's just it was just there from the beginning, it was love at first sight and everything was perfect, or the other where there was a conflict and then all of a sudden it shifted and they fell in love.
And they lived happily ever after, and they never had an argument ever again in their lives.
So that's not realistic, but the story where someone is developing, like, there's a little bit of attraction and then it's developing and it's taking time, and that's a bit we don't see it that often. I mean, it does happen, but we get a little bit caught in this idea of how
maybe you can create a playlist that I can put in show notes of actually real romantic movies. That would be fun.
Yeah, if only I was an expert in romantic movies.
Yeah, but seriously, if there's anything you can think of, and listeners, if you're like, okay, I have actually seen a realistic but yet still hopeful and fun romantic movie, send it in and I'll add it to the show notes. Okay. Because there is a problem with the way media portrays love, I would think, right? Our expectations have become so ridiculous.
Completely,
Right?
Yeah.
And then reality, which is actually pretty cool. I think in so many ways people like have no idea how fun reality actually is, because they have this weird idea of how it should be. And that is just, media has just basically ruined the reality of relationships for people.
But and the expectations are completely unrealistic. To this other person is going to make me happy and they're going to complete me, and if that's not the case, they're not right for me.
Exactly. What would complete me even be? What does that mean?
Yeah, but it would kind of insinuate that you're not complete.
Exactly, right? It's kind of offensive.
Yeah.
Like, I am this puzzle piece and there's something missing and I need it to be whole.
Yeah.
But we do know where it comes from. That comes from, of course, from that great myth.
Yes.
But there was something else I wanted to talk to you about. God, it was there.
Yeah.
And now it's
gone.
I know
that feeling.
Oh no, I know. I remember now, because this is also something I always get asked, again, especially by the women. Where have all the good men gone? Right? Maybe that's another myth we need to talk about. Like that there are no good men left.
There are no good
single men.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that,
and
myth.
that is so interesting. Yeah, I hear the same all the time.
Right?
where do I find them? Where do I go? And it's not,
are they hiding?
everywhere. I mean, you can meet them. I have a client who met a man in a parking space, and I have another one who met one in an airplane. You can meet them everywhere. It's not about where you go. It's about the energy that you go out into the world with. The second you leave your home, you can meet someone. If you are open and you are approachable, that's also a big thing. Being approachable, being present.
Okay, what does that look like? What is being approachable?
Is that, for instance, like instead of having a sort of a headset, listening to something all the time, which we all have a tendency of checking our phone all the time, and maybe have a little bit this face like we're deep in our thoughts, concentrating about something, we're not actually available to the surroundings. So I want to practice, not all the time, because sometimes we are on the go, we are busy
in our bubble, or to recharge.
So but sometimes just take a moment, like if you go to a cafe, you go to a library, you go somewhere, just take a moment and be 100% present. Practice being in the moment, and look around and notice who is there, and feel your senses. Notice how does it smell, and what are some people that are around me. Make eye contact with them and smile to some of them, to just show them that you are present, you are there with your mind as well.
I love that. Basic mindfulness, right? Like, which is great to do anyhow. Again, for the people not looking for a partner, do this too, right? Like, you get to have so much more fun this way when you are in a world like this, and you feel the things and you see the people, and maybe even you do a little flirting with the barista or whoever it is, right? It is so fun. It adds so much joy to your life.
Yes, and the other person that sees you smiling, you make that day, because there was a woman smiling at you, or a man, or whoever you are. So that's
not just a smiling. Listen, someone has seen me. Someone has noticed me. That is like such a gift you can give to someone. 100%. We all want to be seen.
Our presence is such a big gift to another human being, and we cannot we don't value that enough. We don't realize how powerful that is, that we don't have to think about performing or showing how great we are and impressing another person. Just
have the perfect thigh gap, and
and it's not about, sometimes also here people want to be more interesting. They want to, how can I be more interesting? And there is a one simple way, and that's basically just to be interested. Instead, be interested in the other person. Be open and available to discovering who is this other person if you're on a date with someone.
Okay, so be open, right? So and it's funny because where have all the good men gone? They're not gone. And they're not hidden somewhere in a vault for you to unlock, right?
They're hidden from.
And the same with all the good women, or whatever it is, whatever gender it is you're looking for. They are not hiding somewhere, and they have not been hidden from you. They are all about. And listen, I do want to speak to, like, first of all, yes, you have less options, fewer options, if you are like, at the end of the bell curve and you want someone similar. You have fewer people to choose from. That is a given. That doesn't mean there aren't like thousands of potential matches for you.
Yes.
Very important. Okay, so be open. What else?
Be open, and then the mindset around. So we have, in the coaching industry, we talk about money mindset, and so I talk about man mindset. It's about being, thinking. Constantly reminding yourself that there are plenty of men out there, and you can do a little test. If you can look at how many people live in your city or in your area, and then you can try to see, okay, how many of these are men or women, what you're looking for, how many of them are in my age bracket, and then you can sort of calculate that it's typically there's huge number. I mean, as soon as there's more than 1,000, you can't even date 1,000 of them. And so even if you are very selective and you imagine only maybe 1 or 2% of them are interesting for me, you typically end up with a number that's high enough to imagine.
It's way more than you can cope with.
Yes. So the mindset around that, and practicing noticing when you see someone who could have some of the character traits that you're looking for, and remind yourself they exist. They are everywhere.
100%. And
So
as
it's
you were saying, like,
abundant.
you don't need to go to special secret network meetings, right, to meet the
No.
good men. They
But
can
you
be in the
can. I mean,
library or in
I
the
have,
grocery store or at the parking lot or whatever.
yeah. So I always say do both the organic dating and online dating. So make sure to put yourself out there. Of course, he's not gonna come knock on your door unless it's the UPS guy you want. But
Well,
otherwise,
listen,
yeah.
have you seen my UPS guy though?
Okay. So you have to put yourself out there, but also go on some of the dating apps, because it is, although most people really hate them, but it is such a good tool for meeting people you normally wouldn't
Okay,
have.
okay. I love that you're saying this because I hear the same. People are like, oh, the
Yeah,
dating apps are
yeah,
awful
yeah.
and they're just trash and the people are horrible. And you're saying, no, not at all.
There's nothing wrong with the dating apps. It's just a platform. It's completely
It's
neutral.
neutral. Yeah.
Completely neutral, and it's a tool for connecting with someone that you wouldn't normally have run into, and that could be actually really good matches. So it will expand your network like this, and you can, in an afternoon, you can go through a number of profiles. It's actually very time efficient to go on some dating apps. Use like 1 or 2 dating apps, and then
Are there any specific you would recommend?
so that's very different from country to country.
Okay.
What is the reputation they have?
Right.
So I usually don't. I ask them. I ask my clients, what is the most popular in your country? Because it is
Right.
there's some very local ones as well that sometimes are the most popular apps in the area. So
Smart. Yeah.
yeah. So there's like, I think there's like 1,500 apps, if not more.
Oh my God. Okay,
World,
so do some research. Are there any dating apps for smart people that you are aware of? I think there was
I'm
an
actually not
initiative,
sure. There
but
used
it
to be
died
one called
out.
Elite Daters, but I think that has changed a lot, and it wasn't
Yeah.
actually really no. So that I am not sure if that exists.
Interesting.
But,
And I think there was someone who started it, but I think there's also, it's problematic for a lot of reasons, which we won't go into here. Right?
yeah.
Okay, so go on a dating app. And how do you, when you go on dating apps, how do you make sure, first of all, it doesn't become like, it doesn't destroy your self-confidence? Let's say you're a man or a woman over 50. I have heard stories from people like, nobody wants to date me. I'm like too old. Like, all the men in my age bracket want to date women who are like 20 years younger than me. Does that mean you're on the wrong platform? Or, I mean, how can you like have a fun dating experience, online dating experience? Well, how do you design that?
Yeah, so there's a lot to be said to that. There's like a whole
Different podcast episode.
but you need to I mean, first of all, I would say when you scroll through profiles, for instance, you want to make sure not to do that every day and all the time, because it's draining. This is every time you see a profile, you need to decide, is it in or out, right or left, and that creates decision fatigue if you do
100%.
that all the time, based on very few information. So I recommend only do this maybe once a week, and then you have a selection of people that you match with, and then you connect with them and communicate with them and see how that develops. So, and if you feel there's that men my age are only looking for younger women, that's not true. Of course, those who are looking, there are some who are looking for younger women, but
100%.
they are not someone for me, right?
Yep.
I'm looking for someone who's looking for a woman my age.
Yep.
So we're going to just look apart from those and then focus on the ones that are actually in my group. And then you can add on one more app. If you feel this is not going anywhere, then use another app as well.
Yeah. So basically be, again, like same with the dating, I guess, with the whole process, be open-minded, be curious, test a couple of things, see what works for you, what doesn't.
It's all about experimenting and trying out, put out a profile that shows you, that makes you stand out a bit, that shows the things that are unique about you. Don't be scared about showing that. And don't waste time on or space in the profile writing all the things that everyone else writes. So put something special and unique, and then choose based on just someone. There's no warning signs, and it looks like he could be actually okay, but don't expect to feel attracted or like this is going to be the love of my life or something like that. a lot of the data that has been made based on people who met each other in apps, they show that whenever someone met their future husband or wife, it was just another profile.
Right. It was
not
like,
something.
oh,
No,
the one.
no. It was just someone that looks. Oh, he could be a decent guy.
This could be
Maybe.
fun, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can have
Yeah.
a coffee with him. And all you need to imagine is, can I have a coffee with this guy or not?
This is a coffee test, basically,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
It's not like, oh, can I share the rest of my life with this person? It's impossible to say.
Yeah.
So the dating app is just for connecting and like a few exchanges, and then you move on to real life.
Right.
Don't hang in there writing for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not a good way. It's a waste of energy.
Yeah, a lot of energy. And I think also it can really undermine people's self-confidence if they get sort of stuck in that. Especially, by the way, I'm just right now talking to my ADHD people who have rejection sensitive dysphoria. Be very careful with this, right?
Yeah.
Get out quickly.
Yeah. So it's really about and also just seeing it as one tool. Go out and meet people. Make sure you are visible. Make sure you are in this energy of being open and present and approachable whenever you go to places where you could potentially meet someone.
Which is basically everywhere.
It's everywhere, yeah.
Just reminding people, right? Like if literally, I mean, if you have a client who met their partner in the parking lot, you literally can meet people everywhere.
Yeah, you can meet them everywhere. That's for sure.
Isn't that fun? I mean, in that sense, the world is like a playground and a date ground. And not like, I don't mean that in a creepy way, people, but just, it's fun to walk around like, oh, look, there's a human that could be interesting and fun to play with.
For sure. Yeah. And then, of course, this is like the basic thing you need to be open to whenever you leave your home. You could meet someone. But then, of course, there are I give advice on what are some ways you can, some places you can go, things you can consider.
Okay. Are you willing to share that advice?
Yes, I mean, one of the things is, of course, do things that you would have done anyway that interest you. So if you want to go to a conference about something, you want to go to some kind of a lecture about, if you're very much into philosophy, then go there because you want to do it anyway. And then if you connect with someone, it's someone who's already interested in that.
Exactly. You really have at least some overlap.
Yes. Yeah. So all these activities, things that you would have done anyway, and that but that you might not have put on the agenda if you were not single. Yeah. So things where you say, okay, now I'm going to be a little bit more active. I'm going to go out a little bit more, but it has to be things that interest me and where I sort of expand my horizon a little bit. So those are some of the things, and go for a walk in the park. Borrow a dog is also something you can try because people with dogs, they so easily get in touch with each other, and you go into a park or just put yourself out there all the time.
Are there rent-a-dog services already? Can you rent dogs?
No, but I think what you can do, you can offer yourself as dog.
You can probably make money walking dogs for other people, and then also like meet your next partner.
Yeah.
It's like win-win.
Yeah. But it's funny, this thing about where they are. I mean, they really are. It's really a question of shifting our mindset and also becoming good as practice noticing when we see someone who could be potentially a good match. And even if we don't know if they're single or not, just to put it into the brain as a reminder that there are someone out there that could be potentially interesting.
And just for those people who have been burned badly in the past and are listening to this and just thinking, I'm sorry, all men are assholes or women are assholes, like all people are assholes, then you just have some work to do. Right? Yes. Because obviously that isn't true. It sucks that you had this bad experience. But if that is the way you're still thinking, then maybe first you have some inner work to do before you want to start dating.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes, because again, we are creating our own reality. So if we have this programming that they all are assholes or whatever, then this is what we're going to.
We'll find the reasons.
And you could have the perfect partner just in front of you. You won't see him because you only see the ones that are confirming your belief.
Exactly. Listen, this has been amazing. I'm looking at the time. We have to start wrapping up. Any other stuff where you think this is essential for people to know when they think about attraction, when they're dating?
I think that we covered a lot of the most
important things.
Yeah, we did. It's really the step number one is to become really aware of what are the patterns you had from the past, and then I would say actually up level. A lot of women need to up level their standards in order to attract a different kind of man, and probably the same with men. Now, I only work with women, so I wouldn't be able to say, but become clear and what it is you're looking for, and build a strong and loving relationship with yourself. So become your own best partner to begin with, and then go out and start dating and be aware of what are the criteria, that the right criteria, and not the ones that are useless about a specific career or specific things they have accomplished. So get curious about what is it that you're looking for and why.
Yeah,
and then
right,
be
not
open.
the accolades, but what do you make the accolades mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then as we talked about, be curious, be patient, give it some time, do the slow dating. Don't expect the attraction early on, but give it some time. And if it doesn't develop, then move on to the next.
And I would just want to add to this, which is all very solid advice. Try and have some fun in the process.
Yeah. That we didn't even talk about. That is actually a big part of, I think that is so important, and what I work with my clients on, find ways that they think it's fun to date. Because if we have fun when we are dating, we can continue until the right one is there. We're not pulling ourselves out of the game.
It's the same for everything. Like, and I say this when I coach people in building their business. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You want to have fun doing it because you're going to be spending a lot of time on it and energy and effort. So it needs to be fun for you. First of all, to want to continue doing it, but you only have one life. Make it juicy and joyful. Right?
Yes, for sure. That is so important. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you so much for all these insights and for helping us debunk all the myths of attraction. If you guys want to learn more about Laerke, she also has a podcast, so I highly recommend you check that out. I'll leave all the links to her and the podcast in the show notes. Again, thank you so much. Happy dating, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nielson.